I'll start this video with this from Father Chad Ripperger because I want to focus on the kids again in this video.
Demons know that if you can wound a person when they're young, their psychological faculties don't function in a normal way, and as a result of that, they're more easily controllable and manipulatable.
The truth is that I am artificial and attention-seeking. I devoted myself so strongly to my music that I forgot about my family.
I felt at one point that I was living in like a haunted house because I was hearing scratches on the wall right next to me. I would feel a brush by me and be terrified that somebody is here in the room with me. Someone's watching me. I've always felt like I was being watched. When I would wash my face for the day, it was one of the most terrifying things that I did. When I took a shower and I had to close my eyes, I was so terrified. If I had to get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, I would run because I thought something's going to grab my feet. I was an adult at this point, and it took me far into drugs. I ended up being homeless and on drugs, in and out of jails and all kinds of things. For 9 years of my life, I was really in a dark place.
Or what about the trauma and sufferings this young woman has had to go through? This is Allison Carter, a survivor of child sex trafficking, and was one of the victims in this monster's sex party.
That no one tells on Diddy. P. Diddy. All right? Just the same way nobody tells on Denzel Washington. People don't usually talk and stop and think about the children victims that are going through things right now as we speak, and the ones who suffered through all this bullshit. We're still not on the subject of the kids. All the adults are covering their asses. All the adults are, I left at a certain time, yet you knew children were there. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. What about the victims? Our PTSD lives on every damn day that they did what they did. But it's only talked about when it's trending. Yeah, I was at a Diddy party. I was one of the party favors. We're not talking about the victims that are still going through the shit right now with other people who are running to cover their ass and deleting their social medias. Pink, Megan Fox, Tyra Banks, Steve Harvey. I already knew that Diddy and Oprah is about to get arrested.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
Hi, thanks for tuning in again to Armor of God. And just like before, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to be here with us, and hopefully you'll learn something from this video. Again, before we go any further in this video, we'll start with a prayer, and I'll share this clip of Father Joseph Iannuzzi again.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne, e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen.
Anyway, as you know, recently I released a very short video showing what the devil is doing, and one of them is this horrible news of a mother in Brazil who beheaded her 6-year-old son in a satanic ritual. The face of that little boy and that news kept on appearing in my head ever since. And I kept on thinking, how could someone, let alone a mother, do something so horrible to her own son? And I also shared a lot of the satanic and diabolical activities that are taking place around us, and urging the parents to be more aware of what our kids are doing and watching, what we ourselves are doing to raise awareness to the people around us. For example, this one that I shared on the community post. Did you know that the team behind that animated show did a live performance before?
Something tells me that today will be a happy day in hell, that everyone can change, then they will know everyone can be redeemed.
To put it simply, what's wrong with this song is the idea that damned souls, or even demons, can be redeemed contradicts, in a scandalous and flagrant way, the Catholic teaching on confession, repentance, and true conversion of the heart to God. Let me share you this very short clip of Father Chad Ripperger when he talked about the demons targeting our children.
One of the things that demons do is that they attack the institution of marriage. The reason that we want to observe that they attack marriage is in order to harm and damage the children, because they know if they can harm them or damage them in relationship to the marriage of the parents, that when they're young, then they will have a greater opportunity to possibly control them in the future. In other words, when people are wounded or damaged, that is, because that's what wound is. Wound is a kind of a damage on the skin, etc. But it's the same thing true in relationship to psychology. Demons know that if you can wound a person when they're young, their psychological faculties don't function in a normal way. And as a result of that, they're more easily controllable and manipulatable. Sin, trauma, abuse on the side of parents and others is the way in which children are formed in the minds of the demon to be susceptible to doing whatever they want them to do. In other words, you just weaken them, and then that way you can just control them.
You know, these days, when I read or found out that someone is a witch, practicing witchcraft, the occult, I often wondered, how did the parents raise them? You can't pin the blame on the teenagers all the time, even for some celebrities that we know who are being very open with elements of the occult in their performances. You have to wonder how along the way they started to doing these things. For example, like this interview right here.
The truth is that I am artificial and attention-seeking. I devoted myself so strongly to my music that I forgot about my family. Every bit of me is artificial and attention-seeking.
Or what this former witch who shared how she started doing this whole witchcraft thing.
Around the age of 13, I was starting to get depressed. I was being bullied at school. And even though I was in a Christian home, my parents did the best that they could, but they were heavily on the side of just abuse. And so when you were in trouble, you were beat. And so I believe the enemy used that to come against my self-worth, who I thought I was. And I was so depressed, I just thought if I would die, life would be better for everybody else. And so during that time, I was connected with some girls, and I remember going to a sleepover, and they watched a movie called The Craft. And this movie came out around 1996, and it was about 4 witches who were in high school. And these witches were bullied and picked on, and their lives were kind of messed up, and they used witchcraft to control situations around them and to get what they wanted. I watched the movie, and I thought, I want that. Well, of course, in the movie, they went too far anyway, and the witchcraft had turned against them, and the girls were desperate to get out of it. But during that point, I didn't even see that ending. I just thought, oh, I won't go that far. I'm just going to be innocent in it. And I began to study the religion of Wiccan and study different spells and incantations and New Age practices and occult practices that I was doing in a Christian home that nobody knew I was doing. And so what started off as something innocent, where I'm just connecting with energy and the universe and vibes and all these innocent things that we see, took me down a path of just dark desperation. I felt at one point that I was living in like a haunted house because I was hearing scratches on the wall right next to me. I would feel brushed by me and be terrified that somebody is here in the room with me, someone's watching me. I've always felt like I was being watched. When I would wash my face for the day, it was one of the most terrifying things that I did. When I took a shower and I had to close my eyes, I was so terrified. If I had to get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, I would run because I thought something's going to grab my feet. I was an adult at this point, and it took me far into drugs. I ended up being homeless and on drugs, in and out of jails and all kinds of things. For 9 years of my life, I was really in a dark place.
Now, I'm sure a lot of you know who this guy is. Anyway, here's something that I'd like to share here, and I really wanted to use the platforms that I have, including this channel as well as on Twitter, to keep on pushing the message about protecting our kids, keeping them safe, and anti-abortion messages.
10 years ago in Los Angeles, California, ex-Navy SEALs, ex-CIA agents, and they travel around the world undercover rescuing children. And when they told me in details what they do, in how they rescue these children, my eyes were open. And I said, I'm a filmmaker, I wanna make a movie about this, because the first step to eradicate child trafficking is to raise awareness. Because if you don't know that this problem exists, how you can fix it? So I made a promise to God that I will dedicate my entire life to end child trafficking. To end child trafficking. Because God's children are not for sale. Children are sacred. There's more than 300,000 children, over 300,000 children that they came through the border, they released them, and we don't know where they are.
And so now let me share you a longer version of the clip of Allison Carter, who's a sex trafficking victim of this monster.
I never thought that we would see the day where Diddy would get arrested, and I told you guys in that Maria Z interview in 2021 that no one tells on Diddy. P. Diddy. Alright? Just the same way nobody tells on Denzel Washington. People don't usually talk and stop and think about the children victims that are going through things right now as we speak, and the ones who suffered through all this bullshit. We're still not on the subject of the kids. All the adults are covering their asses. All the adults are, I left at a certain time, yet you knew children were there. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. It wasn't just adults in these parties. The adults were responsible for the child sex slaves that were in the party. And one of those children were me. Nobody ever thinks about the victims. Nobody. The victims' lives get turned around when the predators' lives want to just get announced. You slap them on the wrist and you bring up every source of trauma for the victim. But nobody wants to stop and think about that. We're not talking about the victims that are still going through the shit right now with other people who are running to cover their ass and deleting their social medias. Pink, Megan Fox, Tyra Banks, Steve Harvey. You know what a part of me feels like? You know what? Good, run. Because then you get to see how it feels to have to jump and throw everything that you give a damn about away for 2 seconds. Get a moment of peace for not a damn moment. Not a moment of peace. You take it and you run with it because you're happy about the peace. But then you see how it feels when they get shaky. You see how it feels when the world is a little quiet, like, oh, my superstar, my idol. What about the victims? Our PTSD lives on every damn day that they did what they did. But it's only talked about when it's trending. Yeah, I was at a Diddy party. I was one of the party favors. But I told you, nobody tells on Diddy. Maria Z, I did that interview in 2021. 7 months ago. We made sure, I already knew, that Diddy and Oprah is about to get arrested. I already knew that 7-8 months ago. We went and made sure there were sworn documents. We have them. When we went to Colorado for the A to Z event, we had a lot of legal evidence that we made sure we already had because we knew a list of people were about to get got. You can't run for that long. I'm just shocked we're finally seeing the day. So thank you so much for listening. We got to go and tie up some things, and then we'll be back.
And although the following clip of Father Reehil is not entirely related to the 300,000 missing children reported in that video, still I'd just like to put the focus of this video on the safety of our kids, including pushing the anti-abortion message.
The truth of the matter is this. If you are proclaiming you are Catholic, then you have to believe all of what the Catholic faith teaches, not just bits and pieces, you know? This is not the cafeteria where you can pick this and leave that. You either believe it or you don't. And the faith teaches us that the murder of innocent people, or the killing of innocent people, is called murder. Okay? And that includes children in the womb. Therefore, abortion is always intrinsically evil and wrong. It's the most heinous thing to kill an innocent baby. And that's what it is. Stop calling it women's reproductive health. There is nothing reproductive about murdering a child, okay? Because, you know, just naturally think about it. If you just killed everybody in the womb, there'd be nobody left. So very evil. I think most people get this. I don't understand the people who don't get it. But I partially think there has to be some kind of a darkness over their soul that they have no more conscience, maybe? I don't know. It just doesn't seem... There's no way you can rationalize this and to make it make sense. There's just no way, you know. What if you saw 50 kids going into a preschool in the morning, and then they get in there and then they're chopped up and butchered and nobody comes out? Would that be okay? Because it's the same thing. It just means one of them is a little bit older than the other, but it's the same thing. Okay, we would never allow that, and yet that's what we're allowing with these crazy laws that allow children to be killed in the womb. Now, what people don't realize is if you look up the statistics on the government's website and global websites about statistics regarding birth and death, every year in the world, there's about 53 million people who die of all different causes. So if you combine all the ways people die, natural death, heart attack, stroke, murder, suicide, all of them, 53 million a year. So basically a million a week. But that doesn't include abortion. If you include now abortion alone, it's about 55, 56 million a year globally. So more people are dying in the womb every day than outside the womb. That is a terrifying statistic. I can't imagine how God the Father must grieve over knowing that more than half of the people he creates are being murdered in the womb. Can you imagine? Shocking. So this is it. You know, he's a gracious God. He's a loving God. But at some point, his justice will also come into play. Not because he hates us, because he loves us, you know. And at some point, he's going to say it would be a mercy to send a chastisement to wake people up. And that is, I believe, what is coming. There will be some sort of chastisement for what has happened, what we've done to this creation, including the little children. That will be a mercy to wake people up, to get his attention, that God will be acknowledged as a supreme creator and author of life, and that people will readjust their views to make sure that that is understood. Because, and this is the problem with atheism, you know, if you don't believe in God, you can pretty much do anything. If there's no justice coming at the end of life, you can lead a life like Hugh Hefner, right? You can lead a life like the mafia, just killing people randomly to get more money and drugs and all this. You could be a sex trafficker if you don't think there's a judgment at the end of life, because you can do anything if nobody's going to call you to justice. That's the problem when you don't understand that there actually is a God who does make all these people, and he makes them out of love so they can have a life that is fulfilling, loving and serving him here and then forever in heaven. But when you throw out God, you throw out everything, and out goes the morality of the country as well.
Now in SART, I haven't been releasing a lot of compilations where the priests are giving spiritual directions like I used to. I'll be sharing that kind of videos again from time to time, but at the same time, I've been thinking a lot about making use of the platforms that I have to share the problems, and I mean real satanic cases and problems out there that we don't often read on the news. And for me at least, I really want to spread the awareness to parents out there, especially young parents, and also on the safety of our kids. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and I hope, in some ways or another, all of you have learned something from this video. I always welcome and appreciate any feedback from you, and so if you have any, please let us know in the comments below. Anyway, if you like what we do and you'd like to support us, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.